All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. I know people are still dialing in, but we got a jam-packed hour here, and I really want to make sure we utilize every minute. I want to thank you and welcome you all to Email Myths Busted, email tips that work now. I'm Jay Schwedelson. I'm really honored to be speaking today with Della Quist, the founder and CIO of Alchemy Works. Today's going to be fun. The format of today is going to be interesting. So I'm going to speak for the first 25 to 30 minutes. Going to go rapidly through lots of different tips and tricks and whatnot. And for those of you who've never been at a session of mine, I talk pretty quick, but I'll be happy to send you the slides when I'm done. And then after I go, I'm going to hand off to Della. And for those of you who have never seen Della speak, Della is really he's an industry legend in many different areas, but what I love about Della is he brings to the table knowledge and data that really shows you behind the curtain, why things are working and why you need to stop thinking that certain things can't be done, and he's terrific at taking you through that data. So it's going to be awesome. So with that, we're going to get started because I don't want to miss a beat here. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to hand it off to Della in just a little bit. All right. So right now you got Della and me on the video. I think Della, if you go off video, we'll be ready to rock and roll. And there we go. Perfect. All right, here we go. So first off, let me just give you the 2 cents on who I am, not to commercialize. Jay Schwedelson. I'm the president and CEO of a company called World Data. I've also founded a website called subjectline.com, which is a division of my company. We're about a 100-person organization. We are based in Florida. We focus on demand generation services for both B2B and B2C clients. We work with 40 out of the Fortune 100 companies on the planet. We also work with mid-market and small business, and we focus on demand generation, new customers, new sales, new leads, new opportunities. We do a lot of that via email. I don't own any data. I'm not an ESP or a marketing automation platform. We work with all of them, Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, HubSpot, you name it. We execute about 6 billion email messages annually to fuel all this demand generation and data hygiene work that we do. And we have a research division called World Data Research, which is where all of our data comes together, and we could put together these webinars and share some of the output of these 40,000 campaigns that we do. So that's where my data comes from. Who cares about me? You're here to understand what's going on with email marketing right now. And that's the critical thing. What I'm going to take you through is not stuff from 2 years ago, right? Sometimes you go to these sessions, these best practice sessions for email marketing, and they're terrible because they're telling you information from 2 years ago, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago. I'm talking about data from the last 30 days. Why? Because the pandemic has changed everything. Email has radically changed. So you see these articles that come out. Here's Inc. magazine. Please stop sending so many emails all day long. It's not working anyway. Email is dead. This is what drives me nuts about email best practice information that's in the marketplace. 90% of it is total garbage. Here's a couple facts. Never in the history of the world has more email been sent out than right now. Never in the history of the world have more people spent more time, and this is true, in their inbox. And here's the kicker. Never before have open rates, both B2B and B2C on average, been so high. So emails are being sent more than ever and open rates are higher than ever. So when people say that email is dead, I like to say to them, okay, stop sending to your list. It's a myth. Now here's something that's gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna take you first through B2B and then I'm gonna take you through B2C. The biggest myth in email marketing is that you shouldn't send out a lot of email. That what you should do is be very cautious. Don't oversend because you're going to upset the apple cart. The person's not going to really like getting the emails too much. You're going to annoy them. That couldn't be further from the truth. Not only is not the reality, not only are we consuming email, but the reality is the more you send, the higher your average open rate goes up. So here's an amazing chart. On the bottom, you have, this is B2B first, the number of emails being sent in a month, right? And these percentages are the percentage, the average open rate as you go through those days. So for example, over here, if you send out 1 email a month, your average open rate is going to be 14% on the B2B side. Okay, if you send out 6 emails a month, your average open rate is going to be 20%. Now you may be saying, oh, my average open rate's higher or my average open rate's lower. That's okay. This is across the board, everything in B2B. So it's directional, and that's how you have to look at it. But here's the amazing thing. What is the peak time? The peak time is right here, 15 to 16 sends per month. That means that your optimal amount of sending is 3.5 times per week. You're like, what is he talking about? If I send out 3.5 times per week, I'm going to get fired. I can't send out that much. But the reality of it is, that is what the most successful marketers are doing. Let's look at the consumer side. The consumer side is even crazier. Okay, same chart. The optimal amount of time to send per week to get the highest average open rate, believe it or not, is 4 times per week, 17 to 18 emails a month. My math isn't bad. There's 4.3 weeks in a month, okay? So you're looking at 4 times per week is the optimal to get your highest open rate. So when people tell you, oh my God, I sent out more emails and I got a complaint. I got 3 complaints. Oh, they're very angry at me. Look at these emails we got in. They're telling me I'm a horrible person. Who cares? People write those nasty grams in, not because they're upset they got your email, because they're horrible people, okay? And they've had a very bad day, okay? Who does that? Look at your numbers. Look at your unsubscribe rates. Look at your open rates. Those are the metrics that matter. So why? Why is sending out all of this email work? The game has changed, right? The game has changed. We don't just send out more email just to send stuff out. And by the way, it's not that hard to send out 3.5 emails to 4 emails a week. Number one, you send out a weekly newsletter. Okay, that's gone. That's one of your weekly emails. And now you have an offer. You're going to send out whatever the offer is this week. You're sending it out at least twice. So now you're sending out 3 emails a week and you haven't even pushed the envelope yet. So to get to 4 is not that hard. But why is everybody doing it? It's all about engagement. The name of the game now is if I send you an email today, okay, and you open up that email or click on that email, which would be wonderful, the next time I send you an email, because you opened up that previous email, there is so much more of a stronger likelihood that I go back in your inbox because I engaged with the previous email. So the more emails you send, and every time you send an email, different people open it up. Not always the exact same people open it up. So you're generating new engagement from new people every time you hit send. So every time you hit send, you're giving yourself a greater opportunity to allow for the future emails that you send to go into the inbox and not the junk folder. So marketers realize this, and that's why they send so much. And it works, and the open rate stays steady. So let me give some examples. Chip and Joanna Gaines, okay? Chip and Joanna Gaines. I love these people. Who doesn't like Fixer Upper, right? It's like you watch this show, you forget what time it is, your brain turns off. You're like, these are the greatest people I've ever seen in the history of my life. I want to hang out with Chip and Joanna Gaines. If they told me to wear a sock on my ear, I would very likely do it because they seem really nice and they know what they're doing. They're taking over the world. I'm on their list. Guess what? Chip and Joanna Gaines, the greatest people on earth, Magnolia, which is their company, they send an email out every single day. Is Joanna Gaines annoying? No, but they know what works. And by the way, these are emails from like this week. I'm trying to show you real-time data here, okay? ClickZ. This is a classic to me. ClickZ is one of the leading websites to teach email marketing and digital marketing. They put out articles like this. Adobe email usage study, email too often named most annoying. So on one end, on their best practice end, they're saying, no, don't send out a lot of email. And that's their best practice, which is why I hate email best practices and they drive me nuts, okay? But on the other hand, here's what I got. What is this, 2 days ago? March 8th. I got 5 emails in one day from ClickZ, who first, by the way, is telling me not to send out a lot of email in their articles. And they come from all these different from addresses. I'm on just one list. 5 emails in one day from the guys that are supposed to teach us how to do it. Here's Microsoft, okay? 3 emails one day. I love who I got the emails from, Microsoft. It's all the same list. They're just messing around with the from addresses. Microsoft Edge, that is their web browser name, which I haven't used in probably 4 years. Microsoft Store, which I don't even know where one's located, and I haven't been to one in God knows how long. And Microsoft Bing is a search engine that I didn't even know still existed. Right? But they use the different naming conventions, and I get 3 emails in one day. How about Fanatics? I love Fanatics, the site. They sent me 64 emails in February. So when you go back and you say, this guy Jay talked a lot, and he said I should send out 3.5 to 4 emails a week, I'm trying to show you this is what's working. These major marketers are doing this not because they're bored, but because they know that they can. Right? The name of the game is send out more, get more of a response rate. Yeah, okay, maybe you get 1 or 2 more people complaining, but that doesn't mean you stop. You stop when your unsubscribe rate jumps up. You stop when your open rate goes into the garbage can. Okay, that's how you know. But this is what marketers are doing. Here's Adobe. I got 2 emails 2 days ago in 1 minute. In 1 minute. Okay? 2 emails in 1 minute. So how are they able to pull this off? How's everybody doing this? Here's the secret. Here's eMarketer, okay? Love eMarketer. Great information. 20 emails, 9 days, 4 different from addresses. That is the secret to sending out more email. You see here, it's the same list. I get an email from eMarketer Daily, then another one from eMarketer Webinars, then one from eMarketer FYI. So imagine your database. When you get an email, I get an email, eMarketer Daily, and then maybe next day or a few hours later, I get one from eMarketer Webinars. I don't sit there and say, wait a minute. I know that eMarketer Daily and eMarketer Webinars are the same organization. No, I don't do that. In my subconscious, I'm like, oh, it's a different sender. It's a different thing. And I'm cool with it. When you use the friendly from and you change it based on what you're promoting, Acme offers, okay, Acme webinars, okay, Acme Insiders Club. When you use that friendly from and you change it, what you're doing is you're multiplying your database. It gives you the threshold to send out more and your open rates go up. So moral to this myth is send out more. Here's marketing profs. Love marketing profs, right? Look at all these different from addresses, all going on the same day. Schwab, 4 different from addresses, same day. They're just using the friendly from to multiply their database, and that's what's working. All right, some more myths. Let's read these out. You will go to the spam folder if you capitalize in your subject line, if you use an exclamation point in your subject line, if you use emojis in your subject line, if you put numbers in your subject line, if you use the word free in your subject line. You do any of these, you will go to the spam folder, or so they say. Or so they say in every single email best practice webinar and session and article. Don't believe it. This is information from years ago, okay? It used to be the case where 15 years ago, when a marketer would send out an email, the receiving network didn't like it, right? They wanted to get rid of anything that was promotional, whatever. So what did they do? They looked at the content, because there was no filtering technology. They looked at the words that you put in the subject line. They looked if you capitalize something. If you put an exclamation point, they go, oh, that must be a bad guy. And they'd filter you. But that's not why you get filtered anymore. You don't get filtered for the content that you put in your subject line. You get filtered, you go to the junk folder, the spam folder for the sending reputation, okay, of your IP address and your domain. So here's the irony. Here's the kicker in all this. When you capitalize in your subject line, B2B open rates go up 18%. B2C go up 14%. You not only don't go to the spam folder, it improves your campaign. Okay? Exclamation point in the subject line. It goes up, not down. Emojis, they do fantastic. Okay? They lift your open rates between 18 to 24%. When you put a number in your subject line, it lifts open rates 19 to 21%. And God bless you, use the word free, please. 31 to 37% increase. So when you hear these things, understand whoever is telling you that is dealing with data from the year of the flood. Here's some examples. Here's an email I got from Facebook. And again, I'm showing you examples now. Here's March 4th. I'm not showing you examples from a year ago. Who cares what happened before the pandemic? I don't remember life before the pandemic, okay? Here's an email I got from Facebook. This is a B2B email I got from Facebook, right? You think they know anything about data? You think they know anything about, how to get something delivered? I think they have more data than anyone could ever imagine. Oh my God, they're capitalizing something in their subject line? They must be morons. No, they know A, it gives them a lift in the open rate, and B, it's not going to get them filtered. Oh wait, here's Zoom. Using a number in the subject line, you could do that? Oh my God. Wait a minute. This is my actual inbox from yesterday. I didn't cherry pick my inbox. You can see by the times, right? This is the times. I received 5 emails in 10 minutes. I didn't cherry pick it. What I'm showing you is how often emojis are being used. Look at this. I got 5 emails and 4 of them were using emojis. And B2B and B2C, they work great. You B2B guys, don't ignore emojis. They work so well. Use that countdown clock. Oh my God, it does phenomenal. What if emojis weren't called emoji? Emojis sound stupid. What if emojis, instead of the word emoji, it said business icon? You're like, oh, can I put a business icon in my subject line? You'd be like, yes, I can. That sounds like a great idea. Forget about how stupid it sounds, okay? And just try it out. Other examples. Every email here, this is my own inbox again. Every single email here has the word free. You know, Lauren at martech.com, your free pass now, Arby's, get your free sandwich. Don't believe you can't use the word free. It's nonsense. Go back to your own inbox. You'll see it everywhere. Okay, your email creative is more important than your subject line. Wrong. Drives me nuts. We spend days and weeks. Oh my God, we're going to make the greatest creative. It's going to be phenomenal. And then, okay, let's get the campaign out the door. What's in the subject line? Who cares? Let's spend 3 seconds on it. Who cares what's in your email if you can't get it opened? Okay. So in the last 30 days, there are words that are trending and phrases that are trending that are giving a big boost to email opens that weren't giving a boost prior to that. And this will be different 90 days from now. But right now, and when I say right now, I'm talking about right now, these are the words that are trending the most. So for example, the word invited. We are so bored with our lives. Okay, we're all starting to inch out a little bit, do a little bit more, but we're still not doing anything. We're still not. I mean, come on. I haven't been to a movie, and I don't know. Next time I'm going to be to a movie, be a Fast and the Furious 37 by the time I go to the movies again. Okay, and so there's a subconscious to like us wanting to do a little bit. So this idea of invited or invitation, putting invited or invitation in your subject line does phenomenal. And keep in mind, you don't truly need to be inviting them to an event. You can be inviting them to an offer. You're invited to this special sale. Okay, you're invited to get free access to this white paper, right? It doesn't have to be an event, but the idea that we're invited to something right now is exciting, and it's in our subconscious. It all is, right? And the word ready, you see both on the B2C and the B2B side. When you use the word ready right now and you put in your subject line, it's lifting open rates 20% B2B, 21% B2C. Why? Are you ready? Oh my God, I've never been more ready for anything in my life. I am ready to do just about anything because I've been getting ready for the last year. Again, it all comes back to this whole pandemic nonsense. It's in our brain. It sucks, but we are ready. And let's look at the rest of the words on the B2C side. Spring and summer, all we want to do is move that calendar forward. Things being in stock, nothing is in stock. This last one over here, uh-oh and oops, this fake screw up does really well, but you got to be a little bit cautious about it. Like, uh-oh, we've missed you, or oops, you missed out on this sale. Things like that in the subject line. People love to see people screw up. I think that's why everyone watched the royal family thing, because we were all like, oh my God, this is a train wreck. I need to watch it because we all want to watch a train wreck. It's terrible, right? That's human nature. It's really a horrible thing. So when you put uh-oh, oops, and you do kind of the train wreck subject line, that's not really a train wreck. It does really well. But that's one you got to tiptoe into. On the B2B side, you see lots of other interesting stuff, right? You don't just see Outlook and Trends, which always does well at the beginning of the year, but you see things like official and approved, which are doing really well right now. Why? Because again, subconscious, we're all racing, trying to figure out where can I get my vaccine? I'm trying to get my loved one a vaccine. I got officially approved or whatnot. So this idea of this officialness and the government being more involved in our day-to-day lives than they normally would be because we're in a pandemic, it's actually impacting open rates. So this is stuff to test. And everything I'm talking about is testing, right? There's no like silver bullet in email. There's no one thing you're going to do that's going to be like, okay, I got it. Email works. It's a series of little things. And that's the beauty of email. And that's what it's all about, testing. So another myth, collecting as much data as possible is essential. Wrong. This form, this landing page makes me want to go to sleep. It's so boring. Okay. It couldn't be less true. Every additional must-fill field that you put on a form, B2B or B2C, you'll lose 8% of your registrations. So if you are collecting zip code, do you need state? If you're collecting job title, do you really need job function? Think about what you're asking for, because if you don't need it, it's killing your response rate. Okay, a few more things before I hand it off to Della. So I always send out a thank you email, but it's really not a big deal. Whenever someone comes to your site, they buy something, they subscribe to something, they download something, they sign up for coupons, you send out an automatic thank you. Thank you for signing up, thank you for whatever, but you don't think twice about that email. You're just like, yeah, it goes out, whatever. Not true. It is the most important email you could possibly send. There is no more important email than the thank you email when someone takes an action on your site. And here's why. It's not just because I want you to be nice. There's zero to do with that. You sign up on USA Today, okay? They send out a thank you note. Thank you for signing up. Who cares? It's an autoresponder. Everybody sends that out. Here is the kicker. Remember we talked earlier about engagements, generating opening clicks, and that gives you the threshold to be able to send out more email and people, it's all about engagement, right? Here's the most important thing about this email. Someone goes to your site, new customer, new webinar sign up, whatever. When you send out that thank you email, okay, and it goes to the person's inbox, if they open it or don't open it, dictates the future that you have with that individual. So you send that thank you email to them. Future delivery to contacts inbox, staying in their inbox instead of the junk folder, who open that initial post-registration email, okay, increases by 87%. Meaning if they open that first email, your likelihood to stay in that inbox is at 87% higher than if they don't. Future emails to contacts who don't open the post-registration email generate open rates that are lower overall by 60%. Oh my God, do you realize what that means? That means if they don't open up that first email that you send them, the likelihood of you staying in their inbox goes into the garbage. That is why it's the most important email. So it's not a thank you email that you're sending. What you need to send on any post-registration of any kind, a sale, an inquiry, or whatever, B2B, B2C, is the most awesome subject line and thing you could possibly think of, right? You sign up for Shutterfly. We have a special thank you gift for you. Oh my God, I'm opening this email. Someone's giving me a gift. It's not thank you for signing up. It's thank you. Here's this awesome thing you're going to get. Open up this email. Open up this email because your life depends on it. Get that email open because it's going to dictate whether or not you stay in the inbox with that individual for the life of that individual. It couldn't be more important. All right, some free stuff before I hand it off to Della. So my company, we put out something, we put out something all the time, which is the best and worst days to send out an email, the best days of the week, right? Green dots in this calendar are good days. Red dots are bad days. And it's not just holidays. We take into account all sorts of trends. Are Monday's good, Friday's good, B2B, B2C. There are two different calendars that we send out, and we keep updating it because of the pandemic. If you already have one of our digital calendars, we just updated again last week. If you would like a copy of this calendar totally free, okay, you can email me at this address that you see here, jays@corpwd.com for the best and worst days calendar. You can email me here. If you want a copy of my slides, you can email me here. Wait, there's more. I started something new. It's called Jay's Inside Scoop. I send out an email about once every other week, and it's literally a text email with a couple paragraphs of stats and trends related to email marketing that I think are really interesting that are happening at that moment. It's not spam. It's literally just from me to you. If you want to get on the Inside Scoop, you can either go to that website, jschwedelson.com, or you can email me and say, please add me to the scoop. And you can include that if you want to copy the slides. I will add you to the scoop. It's a pretty cool new thing that I'm doing. People seem to like it. Okay, subjectline.com. I mentioned that free site. You can go there and check your subject line for free. And you can get all sorts of great information on subjectline.com. Okay, wow. Can you believe how fast I just talked? I can't believe how fast I just talked. Holy cow. All right, hold on. I gotta take a sip of water. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen now. Number one, if you want to email me for slides, calendar, or scoop, you email me at jays@corpwd.com. I'm not sending slides out unless you email me because I don't want to bother anybody. Sometimes you're like, why'd you send it to me? So if you want them, you let me know. Instagram, Twitter. We put out a lot of our data on Instagram or Twitter. World data with 1D, because I don't know how to spell. All right, and with that, I'm now going to hand it off to Della, and Della's going to do his thing, and then at the end, we'll put up a thank you slide. It's going to be wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let Della share his screen, and Della is a rock star, so here we go. All righty, here we go. I'm going to go off sharing my video. Della, it's all yours, my man.
Thank you. Let me just find the right screen. Right. I'm just assuming everybody can hear me now. Can you see the screen, Jay? Can you just let me know real quick?
Yes, you are good to go.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Jay. Thanks for the introduction. I have to say, you and I have known each other for a while, right? And it's kind of always amuses me how the two things that we probably have spent a lot of time thinking about over the years have been subject lines and data. The good thing about it is that what I'm going to say dovetails absolutely with what Jay's been saying. Awesome tips, lots of myths busted, and hopefully I'm going to help with that. The second thing that I want to do is say that I'm very lucky. I've got a name that's easy to find. So there isn't a slide saying how to get hold of me at the moment, but if you Google Delaquist, you'll pretty much be good to go, no matter what. So I always start my presentations with the disclaimer, which is #DBS. And depending on what sort of person you are, you will prefer one of these, which is #DoBeSmart or #Don'tBeStupid. My sense of humor takes me towards don't be stupid. Do be smart actually probably is easier for people to deal with. And what that means is if I say it's safe to leave the building, don't say not if you jump out of the 10th floor window. That's just stupid or not smart. So what I'm saying to everybody is the advice that I've given you, and I would assume the same with Jay and everybody else, is that we're assuming a modicum of knowledge, some base knowledge in there that says that you kind of know not to do something and jump into something you've never done before without thinking it through or speaking to an expert. So that's kind of the disclaimer. #DBS, it's what I'm known for. I say it with a smile, don't be stupid, or say it seriously, do be smart, but that's what I encourage everybody to do. So let's start with probably, when it comes to subject lines, I think this is probably the #1 myth, which is that short subject lines are better. And I've got into huge debates with people over the years over this particular issue. And the question that people have is that, so first of all, what's short, right? Is 25 short? Is 50 short? Is 75 short? Is 5 short? And the same with what's long. And what I think a lot of people make a mistake with when they're thinking about long and short is to assume that there is some sort of number that means short and a number that means long. Typically, I think my experience in the marketplace, and you may think differently, is people tend to think of anything less than 25 characters as a short subject line and anything more than 65 characters is a long subject line. And I've given you some examples of some short ones and some long ones. But the problem with that is that it ignores, and this is the biggest debate people have. So there are two types of people who disagree with me when I say that short doesn't matter. They're the people who say length doesn't matter at all. And there's the people who say, no, short's always right. And I'll deal with both those issues. So let's start with the, hang on a minute. You know, length doesn't matter at all. And the answer is length matters if you think about how much information is in the subject line. And I've divided 4 broad categories of subject line just so you can understand what I mean. Ambiguous subject line. Oops, wait. Summer starts here. What do they mean? And in fact, some of the subject lines that Jay was talking about earlier on are absolutely fantastic examples of ambiguous subject lines. The only way to find out what's in the email, apart from the from address. So if you get an email from DSW, the chances are it's going to be about shoes, right? And it doesn't matter what the subject line says, it's probably going to be about shoes. So that's a good example of an ambiguous subject line. And ambiguous subject lines tend to generate higher opens simply because you have to open the email to find out. By the same token, they tend to generate fewer clicks simply because, and certainly fewer clicks to open, because there is no filter. People are opening it whether they want the product that you're selling or not. And then you have specific subject lines. Now, I've given you some examples of some very specific subject lines. $29 jeans, that's actually a subject line that was in my inbox this week from Hollister. Don't ask, but I get Hollister emails. They also say jeans are on sale, by the way. Now, that's a very, very specific subject line, and that tells you exactly what's in the email. And the bottom line is if you're not wanting to buy jeans, the chances are you won't open that email. So the open rate's going to tend to be lower, but the click rate's going to tend to be higher. And then we go into the amount of information in the subject line. And I actually think personally, this is the most important factor of all, is single proposition. That would be an example of this. Only one thing in the subject line. Act quickly, your exclusive 15% coupon expires tonight. That's a single proposition. It's telling you only one thing. However, you can tell it's a very long single proposition subject line. And so this is an example where if you were thinking about should my subject line be long or not, the question is, have you added anything to the single proposition, which is $15% coupon expires tonight? Is the act quickly important? Does it help in any way? Now, the next thing you have is multiple proposition subject lines. Now, multiple proposition subject lines are where you're conveying as much information as possible into the subject line because you only want people who are going to buy to open and click. And your click to open rates with multiple propositions tend to be way higher than, say, an ambiguous subject line or a single proposition subject line. And so what you find happens is that it's actually quite hard to make a single proposition subject line long, and it's even harder to make a multiple proposition subject line extremely short. So the first thing in your mind is, what am I trying to convey within the email as your first question? And then you decide whether that needs to be long or short. And that's a very, very good way of deciding whether a subject line should be long or short. I love data, and this is some data from Subject Line Pro, which we use. It's a product that works alongside subjectline.com. It goes a little deeper because, for example, we look at clicks as well as opens, but that's part of the product. But here we have a look at every subject line within the database. And there's over 1 million subject lines sent to over 1 trillion people over the last few years. And what's very interesting about this is you will see that the vast majority of emails sent, so that 63% of all emails sent, fall between 20 and 65 characters in length. That means that all the other email subject lines, however short or long they are, only go to a total of 40%. But what's equally interesting is you'll see is that that's the place where subject lines are at their least, or open rates are at their lowest. And partly this is because this is what everybody does. We're trying very hard to make our subject lines shorter or not too long. And in our heads is this idea of somewhere between 25 and 50, 65 characters. And so that's where we're at. Now, the other thing about subject lines and email in general, and I think Jay alluded to it as well, is if you think about it, people just become very familiar. You become blind to what you see all the time. Change is something that makes a difference. And the fact that so many subject lines are coming in, the vast majority of subject lines are coming in between 25 and 65 characters, means that they tend not to pop unless they're outside of that. And outside of that means very short, or in some people's minds, very, very long. And the final part of busting the myth about short subject lines is the question of mobile, okay? Everybody, and for the last few years, has been talking about mobile opens being so high and the fact that shorter subject lines work better with mobile. I've never seen any data that proves it. And in actual fact, I went back through Litmus to have a look. This may surprise you, but mobile opens peaked in 2016. So in 2016, the average percentage of emails opened on the mobile was 55%. Now, bear in mind that at 2013 or 14, that was as low as 15 or 20%. That was a staggering increase. By 2018, that had actually dropped to 46%. And actually in 2020, on average for 2020, mobile opens is under 40%, it's 39%. So that means there's actually more emails opened on webmail than there are in mobile. So I'm going to ask you two things. First of all, is your data accurate? You know, Jay mentioned that we get a piece of historical data from 10 years ago and we use that as best practice forever. So in 2016, there were mobile opens than anything else. There were more mobile opens or emails open on a mobile phone than any other category out there. By 2018, that had gone back down below 50%. And by 2020, that's 40%. So the question is the best use of your budget optimizing for subject lines that work better in mobile? I'm not saying don't, and I'm not saying do. I'm just saying if you had to spend $5,000 doing something, is this where you're going to get your biggest hit? The second thing that I'm going to say to you is that always check and recheck data. It changes all the time. Just because something was once somewhere doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. And I think mobile opens are a particular case in point where our history and our assumptions are blinding us to actually what the reality is. The final thing I'm going to say about mobile opens is that if you think about it, we went from nearly 0 mobile opens to like 55% mobile opens in under 5 years. And we've dropped down from 55 back down to under 40%. Question. Surely we would have seen something in the data that would have showed us that open rates were dropping or going up in parallel with the number of users opening email in mobile if, and this is the big if mobile had an impact. I don't think the data demonstrates that mobile has an impact at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Feel free to do it. Your money is yours to spend how you wish. But if you were to say to me, what should I do? Should I test my subject lines to optimize them for opens on a mobile phone? Or should I focus on something else? I'd probably say something else. And the second reason I'd probably say that is historically and to date, the vast majority of purchases are done on a desktop. So even going back through the last 5 years, the #1 preferred device for making a purchase is actually the desktop and not the mobile. I'm now going to jump into a short pro tip, which speaks exactly to what Jay was saying earlier on. Keep things fresh if you're testing things in your subject line. What we've discovered is that your unique open rates go up significantly if you use fresh words in your subject line. And our definition for fresh words would be words that haven't been used in our subject lines for 6 months. And recently used words are words that we've used more than once in the last 6 months. And you'll see that there's actually quite a big difference between the open rate of subject lines that are fresh versus subject lines that are not fresh. And on this pro tip, I will say this isn't just about subject lines. This actually speaks to anything. It speaks to subject line length. It speaks to creative. It speaks to words in the subject line itself. It speaks to whether you use emojis or not. And I think, again, Jay spoke about this earlier on in his part of the presentation. The bottom line is, if you do something all the time, it stops working over time. And that's something that I cannot stress enough as being very, very important. The second myth I want to bust is the one about stopping mailing non-openers. It's kind of a corollary to the don't mail people too much. It's actually, mail some people a lot and other people not at all. And the people you shouldn't mail at all are your non-openers. And arguably, one of the interesting things about the non-opener is that there's a tendency to pick a very arbitrary number, okay? And that number is picked like, let me just guess, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 3 months. It depends on the brand and it depends on the person. But not one person I have seen who's made that decision has made that decision based on an understanding or knowledge of what the open rates and click rates are for people who are deemed to be non-open. And this is something I want to look into a bit more deeply. And the best way of looking at it is to look at it in terms of what's the value of an inactive email address. So we did this, crunched these numbers on a client, and this is a case study that we produced probably about 3 months ago. And what we tried to show was what the value of an inactive email address was. And we took 12 months. So what we said is we looked at people who, over the last 12 months, based on whether they had received an email or not. Folks who didn't get email were either unsubscribed or actually made a purchase and opted out of all email marketing. Again, granted, you could argue that people who opt out of all email marketing are a slightly different kind of person. You can argue whatever you like, but the numbers are staggering enough to make you want to sit up. And here's the thing. If you look at this particular client's, the revenue from this particular client's customers, people who receive no email because they were opted out or because they were put in the control file, and so they weren't emailed at all, the average spend by those customers was $113. So not emailing people doesn't mean they won't spend at all. What it means is over 12 months that this particular client could expect to generate $113 from everybody that didn't get a single email from them. By comparison, the people mailed spent on average $625 a year with this particular client. So in effect, the average email address had an incremental value in sales for this client of $512 a year. That is a staggering amount. It's just over it's just over $40 a month, and that's a big amount of money. Now, if you look below here and we start to look at non-openers, what we found was that people who did not open a single email in the 12 months we evaluated spent $437 compared to people who got no email. So this $300+ is $325 that's shown here in this blue, this blue part of the pie is your hidden inactive behavior, or your hidden behavior by your inactives. What it means that these people are being impacted by email without opening. Now, it could be they decided to walk into the store. It could be they decided to visit the website. It could be they purchased off an affiliate. It could be they just picked up the phone and spoke to the account handler if you're in B2B. But all of these hidden behaviors are actually should be counted as the value of an email address. And then the final part of this story is, okay, if that's the case, are opens necessary at all? Maybe I shouldn't even care about opens. And the answer to that is actually no to that as well. You actually generate an additional $300 of what I call the engagement premium if you can get someone who receives their email to open one of those emails within the 12 months. So basically, you jump from $113 for people who don't get email at all to $437 to people who get email but don't open any, and that jumps to $771 for people who actually open the email. So you should mail people who are not opening. And the reason you should do that is shown by this chart. Email generates a lot of activity that you cannot see or you can't measure unless you try really, really hard. And we spend a lot of time at Alchemy Works focusing on understanding what that halo effect is or what the hidden impact of your unopened emails, because each email does have an impact on everything else. We tend to assume each email is just a singular event that only impacts what happened in that email. But as Jay pointed out before, and as we've seen many, many times, getting someone to open one email massively increases the chances of them opening another one. So engagement breeds engagement, which breeds loyalty. So multiple engagements over time breed loyalty. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people in and out of engagement and managing that process really, really well. So what I'm showing with this chart is that an email arrives, and at the moment, all we care about is open, yes or no, click, yes or no, what did they do when they clicked? But actually, when an email arrives, even if you don't open it, these are all things you can do that maybe won't be seen by your normal metrics of opens and clicks. They could open it later. They could open it in another browser. They could open it on another device. They can visit the website by just remembering your URL. They could actually walk into the store. And I remember being in Gap a few years ago, and I saw a mom, kid in a buggy, and grandmom, I guess she was a grandmom, all walking into the store, and the mom goes, they've got a sale this week. I saw it in an email subject line. So that's just an example of how the subject line makes someone go into the store and you wouldn't necessarily recognize that nudge, except if you look at their total spend over the 12 months, and you'll see that not opening the email generated $300+ more than actually not getting an email. The same thing is true of clicks, etc. So what we're trying to show you is that there is a lot of hidden behavior, and that hidden behavior will not be generated if you don't mail people. And one of my favorite things of saying is you can't engage with an email you didn't get. No one can engage with an email you didn't send. And taking people off with no thought behind it or understanding of what actually your emails are doing and what impact they have on revenue is just a very, very dangerous thing to do. So now we're going to a second pro tip for you, and this is basically based in, and by the way, I will encourage you, if you want to email me, and my email address will be shown at the end, I'll send the presentation to you, and there's a link to a white paper on subject line testing, which is where some of this data is from. Very, very simple tip. Do not A/B test. If you just test 2 subject lines, the chances of you getting a statistically significantly better open rate is only 3%, and a statistically significant better click rate is actually 0%. If you test 3, that jumps to 21%. So you've got a 1 in 5 chance of the 3rd subject line actually being a good one, compared to a 3 in 100% chance if you only do 2. If you do 4, that jumps up to 33%. So you've got a 1 in 3 chance of one of the subject lines actually performing better than normal. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is psychological. If you do A/B, you tend to do the things you do all the time. If you suddenly have to think of a 3rd or an ABC, then you start thinking outside the box. When you think of a 4th and a 5th and a 6th, you start getting really silly, and out of that silliness or cleverness or whatever it is, sometimes comes a learning that you wouldn't necessarily have known about. So this is a really simple pro tip. Always test at least 3 subject lines, and preferably 4. If you can do 10, that's even better. So now on to a topic that actually speaks to, again, Jay and I spoke about what we're going to talk about, but only in very, very broad detail. So it was very interesting to see how the pieces of information that we sent dovetail. Now, the data that we used, Jay was using very recent data, and we're using historical data, but you can see right now that we saw exactly the same thing, that subject line open rates, or the open rates for your email campaigns, changes with send frequency. And it starts out relatively high and then goes low, and then round about exactly the same place as Jay found, which is somewhere round about 2 or 3 a week. There's an increase in open rates, and then it falls off the more emails that you send. But either way, an open rate of 10% for an email, for 12 emails a week, will get you a lot more opens than an open rate of 15% when you send only 1 email a week. So the bottom line is, all the data we've seen, the data Jay showed you as well, really speaks to a simple thing. Email open rates are affected by the number of emails that you send a week. Total emails go up hugely the more you send, and the sweet spot for sending is actually somewhere in between 2 and 4 emails a week, depending on whether you're B2B or B2C. And this is something that we're seeing consistently. It's all over the place, and it's something you should bear in mind. The other thing you should bear in mind is you shouldn't expect the same open rate if you're sending 2 emails a day as you do if you're sending 1 email a week. And on that note, Jay, I think I'm probably going to stop sharing now, and I'm ready for any questions, or for you to close up.
Here I am. All right. Let me make sure. All right. Well, first of all, Della, that was phenomenal. What's really cool about Della's presentation is, as he mentioned, we really didn't match up our slides, say, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say that. And what's really interesting is how much correlation there was between what Della was saying, what I was saying, where they all kind of land in the same place, which is very counter to what you see in the majority of best practices that are out there. And I love the idea where Della was talking about the halo effect of email, where it's so much more, it's so beyond just you press the button and it goes out, and I hope it did well. So I really hope that everyone got a lot of value out of today. I encourage everyone, here's something important, don't just disappear. I learned that if I just send everybody the slides, they get upset. Why'd you send me stuff? So if you want the slides, and this is a little bit annoying, but that's okay, you can email me. You have my email address there for my slides. If you want Della's slides, you'll email Della. You see his email address there. I encourage you to email us both separately, because I'm not sending you Della's and he's not sending you mine. And while that's not user-friendly, that's okay. Life will go on. These are our Twitter accounts, our Instagram accounts. I know Della's very active. We're very active promoting stuff there. You can email, and Della will also send you his white paper if you're interested. You could email me if you want to be a part of my scoop, if you want to get my calendar. And we're certainly looking forward to doing more webinars in the future. And with that, I know everybody, it's their lunch hour. So if you have any questions, email us the questions. We're not going to do a live Q&A because things kind of go off the rails when we do that. So I want to say thank you to everybody. I want to thank Della for participating. Please reach out to either one of us with anything that you're interested in. And with that, it concludes today's session. Thank you very much.